Something is happening. Hold on. All right. Give yourself.
What does all right mean?
Right. Oh no, I was like, all right. Give yourself a. Hold on. I was gonna finish. Give yourself a countdown.
3, 2. Good day, Internet.
Good day, Internet.
Good day, Internet.
Sarah Lane had a power emergency. Not a power bar emergency, not an emergency need to exercise her power, but she lost power at her place, and the generator didn't kick in, and there's propane involved and high winds, and so she is likely not going to be with us today on the show. Her power came back for a split second, and she thought, "Oh wait, it's all good," and then it went away again. So she's dealing with that. So sadly, no Sarah Lane today, but we're here. Hi.
Hello.
Hello.
Patrick Beja came all the way from Finland just to be here.
That is significant, isn't it?
It is. Because Finland's like not even on Earth, is it?
It is actually on
Technically
Earth.
on Earth? Okay.
Yes.
It's not that.
But given the darkness and cold, you might think it is on the moon indeed.
Right. It's not off the edge of the Earth.
No.
Yeah. Okay.
So I've been watching the Apple TV Plus series of series.
Mm-hmm.
I've watched all available episodes of The Morning Show,
Okay.
and For All Mankind.
I am caught up on the morning show. I am half an episode behind on For All Mankind. I started it when it first came out, and then I got interrupted with a birthday party and a trip, and I haven't had a chance to get back to it. But I'm really enjoying both of those. I haven't started C yet, so I can't say that I like it or don't like it. I just haven't tried it.
It's very different, but it's not bad for what it is. Overall, all three shows I'm watching from Apple TV Plus are solid I'm really enjoying them, and I think they're genuinely A quality shows.
The problem is, and this is not a criticism because I totally agree with you. The problem is there are so many A quality shows right now.
I agree, but having one service with three of them at the same time at release, I think for $5 especially, it doesn't matter that there's nothing else on it for me.
I don't think of it as a service either. I don't know about you. I think of it as, because I use an Apple TV to watch most of my shows, as shows that show up in the My TV section of the Apple TV app.
Oh, see, I don't use the Apple My TV app otherwise, if not for because
you only use it to go find the Apple TV shows.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Because I do have HBO Nordic, but I had to create a Finnish account to get that, and it's not taken into account by the French OS and Apple TV app. So the only other thing that's in there is Amazon Prime Video, which, you know, if it's just that, I'd rather go to the Amazon app.
See, for me... Oh, sorry, Roger. What is it?
I just wanted to quickly add that Notra97 subscribe with Twitch Prime, Servant subscribe with Twitch Prime for 2 months, and then Brave Javehawk subscribe with Twitch Prime. So thank you all three.
Is that from today or yesterday?
Today.
Oh, my screen froze then. What the heck, Sidecar? I'm like, I don't see those. Sidecars.
So wait, how many subscriptions do you have right now for streaming video content, Patrick?
Netflix, Amazon, but that comes with Amazon Prime. Apple TV Plus, and HBO Nordic.
So 3. So would you say...
I guess, do you count YouTube? I also have YouTube.
Sure.
Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah.
So 4, 5. I mean, the thing with Prime is I use Prime a lot, so it's more of a videos.
Yeah, it doesn't really count. Yeah.
I mean, do you think you're at your limit? Like, if you were to subscribe, like, say there was something else you would subscribe to, would you consider dropping one of the ones you have right now?
Maybe. The thing is, I've changed my tune a little bit on this, but The thing is, everyone's thinking about this as an expense that you put up, and it's the number of services you're subscribed to. The way I started thinking of it is there one show I want to watch on that service? If so, how much will I be willing to pay for that show in order to watch the entire season or whatever? And most of the time, a movie is 10, $15 anyway. So I'm willing to pay $15 for 2 hours of entertainment if it's good enough. I think it's the same for those services. It doesn't matter really that HBO is $10. If I'm willing to pay $10 for those 2 hours of entertainment, if there's enough entertainment that I want to watch today on, or this month on HBO Nordic, then I think it's worth my money. So yeah, that's how I look at it. Bottom line, I'm not unwilling. I'm willing to unsubscribe from shows, but not from services, but not because I have too many, although that might play a factor at some point, but because maybe there isn't any show I specifically want to watch.
Interesting. Like I'm probably gonna subscribe to the Disney Plus.
Yeah,
service.
that one I'm definitely getting when it comes here at that price for 1,000%.
Well, I already have Hulu, so I'll probably just get the package Hulu Disney thing.
I've stopped subscribing to all magazines. I'm just there's just too many magazines, and I'm tired of it. And in protest to all the magazines, I am no longer subscribing to all the magazines.
Well,
anymore.
It's interesting.
I mean, I'm sorry,
And
streaming services. I meant streaming services.
That's the thing, with magazines, people don't make the same analogy because people will say, yeah, but you're not subscribed to like 10 magazines. But if back then, when we would buy a couple of magazines and newspapers, maybe for a week, if you include the newspapers, that would cost you, let's say, adjusted for inflation, $5, $6, $7 a month, right? A piece for one magazine. Today, if you want to watch one of those TV show episodes, how much do you think is a fair price for that? I think in all of this, the value of the entertainment we're getting is getting muddled, and people don't realize that it's an incredible value proposition for what we get.
Well, no,
if you don't have time, then it's
I
another
don't
matter.
have time to read all the magazines, Patrick.
Well, that's the thing.
Well,
There's too many magazines.
But
how do they expect me to read all the articles? It's ridiculous. We need to stop all these magazines.
What if there's one article per magazine you want to read?
Yeah, exactly.
That you really want to read.
Right? I mean, exactly. How do they expect me to read all these magazines? There is an article in each magazine that I want to read.
I used to have like 4 subscriptions, and I canceled them all, and I started just buying the magazine on a monthly basis. But I would not buy every month. I would only buy the months.
But it's way more expensive to buy the magazines a la carte from the iTunes store than it is to just subscribe.
Well, I don't buy it from the iTunes store.
I mean, I'm sorry, from the newsstand. I don't know why I said that.
He's still going with that.
You're making a very roundabout analogy. Well, not very.
It's not roundabout at all. It's one for one.
Yeah.
It's people are psychologically. And man, I'm almost sick of talking about it because we talk about it on Quirkulous all the time. But people are psychologically, it's like Stockholm syndrome. Apologize to the Scandinavians, where like you've been imprisoned in the into the cable universe for so long that you feel like you have to have access to everything. You've been brainwashed, and so now that there's a lot of choice. And you can choose what things to have and what things not. It's hard to get over the idea, but I have to have everything.
But I never said I had to have everything.
I'm not talking to you, Roger.
So please note, on the topic of being sick of talking about all of this, please note that I only meant to say Apple TV Plus is really good. That's
no, we got time. B-Bester says the promise of a la carte is dead. No, this is a la carte. This is what a la carte looks like. You get to pick which channels you want. And if one's too expensive, you don't buy it and hope that the price comes down. Or if you look at one and you're like, man, they have some stuff I like, but not all of it, you don't buy it. That's a la carte.
That's exactly what a la carte is. What people want is one service that encompasses every possible piece of content that was ever created.
Well, no,
and while it's possible for music because it's a lot cheaper to produce, it's not really possible for TV.
Well, I think what people want is like each show individually. You subscribe or you don't subscribe. So
no, they don't, because
you can do that.
Too expensive.
You can absolutely do that right now. People are like, yeah, but it's too much money.
Yeah, exactly. No, exactly.
To
it's too expensive. Yeah.
Like you have more control than you've ever had. You have more customization than you ever have had.
Is Tom a little taller today because he's standing on a soapbox?
Yeah, I definitely got up on my soapbox.
No, but I'm completely with you, Tom. It is incredibly frustrating because it is the ultimate proof that no matter what happens, some people, not everyone, but there will always be some people that are unhappy about it. And what's especially frustrating here is that it seems that most people are unhappy about it, which is mind-blowing.
Yeah. Well, people, I think it's not only the cable universe, but also there was an unrealistic expectation of Netflix that I don't think Netflix discouraged, that you would just pay $8.99 a month for Netflix and get everything.
Yeah.
And so, and for a while it felt that way because they kept adding things like, oh, they have more movies. Oh, they have more TV shows. Oh, they have old episodes of TV shows that used to be on the air. And people are like, I guess the logical conclusion is eventually all shows will be on Netflix for $8.99 a month.
Which makes no sense.
Never realistic. Yeah.
Yeah.
But to get back to your original point, Apple TV Plus shows I think are pretty good. And, they still have time to keep coming. I mean, there's an M. Night Shyamalan show coming later this month. They're saying they're going to launch a new show pretty much every month. So they're going to start building up a good amount of shows. They're also hiring Richard Plepler, who was at HBO for 30 years, to do some exclusive production for them down the road. So I think Apple's doing exactly what they need to do, which is have very consistently good shows that some people won't like and some people will, just like any show, until they get one that's a hit. They haven't got the Game of Thrones yet. They haven't got The Wire yet. But they will get there if they keep going the way they're going. And it's cheap and an add-on for their hardware. Like this Apple's executing on this strategy very well, in my opinion.
Yeah. And I mean, we don't know if they haven't. Maybe one of those shows is going to transform into that. We'll have to. I think those shows don't. Right. Mm-hmm. You need a season.
It's so early.
That,
yeah,
it doesn't really seem like that yet, but maybe.
But it could be.
But even beyond that, I think the fact that they have 3 really good shows, which is essentially almost 100% of their offering, is significant. And I didn't think Apple would be able to pull that off, because it's not just good. Like it's not even like sanitized like people thought they would be when there were like the rumors about Tim Cook calling people and saying, you can't show this. And it's just the most enjoyable shows I have on any service right now. There are 3 of them, and all 3 are on Apple TV. So, of course, that's very personal.
Of course, not everybody agrees. Yeah, some people think the morning show is crap.
Oh, really?
That seems to be the prevailing wisdom, is that the morning show is not very good. I disagree.
Oh, my God, it is. I think it's... So, you know what the morning show does incredibly well? I just did an editorial on the Phileas Club for patrons, by the way, on this topic. But it treats outrageous things appropriately, meaning the mood of the protagonists and the characters around the sexual harassment scandal that they are, around, is subtle and nuanced, and they manage to bring complexity to that situation without ever making the unacceptable things seem less unacceptable, which I think I've never seen anywhere before. You know, it's that I think people are missing maybe, but
Or they just
it's
don't like Jennifer
masterfully
Aniston.
written.
A lot of people don't like Jennifer
Yeah.
I
Aniston.
don't
A
understand.
lot of
that
people are
dislike
comparing it to
either.
Newsroom and saying this isn't as good. It's not as deep.
Yeah,
Whatever.
that's not
I mean,
untrue. That's not untrue, but it's not about the same thing.
right.
Was
Roger,
there
you were saying
was
something.
there a strong dislike for Jennifer Aniston?
Yeah.
I
I don't like
Yes.
her. I think she's
No,
very
there's a lot of
one-note,
people-
and she's.
I
not.
mean, like, I don't follow up gossip or any like celebrity gossip.
It's
at
not
all.
a gossip thing. It's just, I mean, you don't have to look hard.
She's
to find
she's
people
not
who
a
don't-
very good actress, I think, and she's more famous than quote unquote some people think she deserves to be, which I can understand.
Ask the
but
chat, Roger. Who doesn't like Jennifer Aniston? I bet you'll get some answers.
She's better in this than she's ever been in anything else, which is essentially Friends. But that I think that's really missing the value of the show, and the show has some. First couple of episodes, I was like, okay, this is a less great Newsroom, but Newsroom was so awesome that why not? I'll take a less great Newsroom. But over the last 2 or 3 episodes, it's developed into something more, and that aspect of talking about the Me Too movement and the issues therein without with being able to bring subtlety there, which is very, very difficult, is really commendable, I think.
What I like to think is once we get a bunch more of these Apple TV Plus shows, once we get a bunch more of the Disney Plus shows, I want to make an old-fashioned grid. So if you go back, and Wikipedia does this really well, you can find like the old broadcast schedules from the U.S. in the like 70s and 80s. And it'll have ABC, CBS, NBC, and if you go later in the 80s, you see Fox on there too. And it's like what they were airing in prime time on like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday in grid format. I want to make a grid of like, okay, if these were broadcast networks or even cable networks, right? What would their grid look like? Would the Mandalorian be their Thursday night anchor show? To bring people in, and how would Apple TV spread their stuff around? I think that would be a fun exercise to sort of compare it to that classic era of when you looked at the grid and you're like, oh, well, it's going to be, Hill Street Blues and Cheers up against each other for the big. Maybe I just do Thursday because I don't know if you have enough shows, to be honest, enough news shows at any given time to spread out over an old-fashioned prime time. But I think that'd be fun to do.
Prime time.
It's fun for old people.
Well, that's me. So
yeah, I guess me too. But
hey, which one of us has the most gray in their beard? Do you think?
Well, I don't have a beard.
Might
So
be
I
me.
don't have any.
Yeah, I don't know. We might be pretty. I think. Wow, I'm getting quite gray. Jeez.
Do you have any gray on top? Or just in
No,
your beard?
thankfully. Well, I mean, it's starting here a little bit, but I like to think it makes me look a bit more like Doctor Strange. That's
yeah. I like to think it makes people pity me because they're like, oh, look at that old man. Maybe I should help him.
Well, I don't think you're quite there yet.
Or they're like, my goodness, he has so much gray in his beard, but he seems to be getting around just fine.
However, my hair is starting to thin on top, which that's tough.
I have every time once in a while I'll see a picture from me on top and I'll be like, well, yeah, there's less up there than there used to be.
Doesn't seem to bother you. It bothers me.
No, it doesn't bother me. In fact, when I was doing Buzz Out Loud, Molly and Veronica will back me up on this. I used to say like, yep, a couple years I'll just be doing a buzz cut because all my hair is going to be gone. You wait and see. By 2010, I won't have any hair left because I saw an overhead shot in Buzz Out Loud that showed a little bit of the thinning up there, but it's just kind of stayed where it is. So I'm like, man, gonna go one of these days.
Yeah. My hair's where it's at, and I don't think I'll budge too far.
Why do you think I've collected all these caps?
I guess that's the Asian genes. It seems maybe it's not the case, but Asians seem to lose their hair less than us Caucasians.
I have No one in my family on either side that's bald, but I've had friends whose fathers, like Chinese bald, like not full bald, but like the standard male pattern baldness. It really depends on what your family tree looks like.
Yeah, I've got my grandpa on my mother's side, which supposedly is the one that passes down that kind of trait.
on the mother's side.
He had classic male pattern baldness, but
Oh.
not on my dad's side.
I have my mom's
But then-
eyes, which means I'm blind.
Let's see, my grandpa on my dad's side.
Is it
died
the
when he was
father
64.
on your mother's side, your maternal grandfather that
Yeah.
passes things? Oh,
That's
then
the theory.
I'm in
Good
good.
hands.
I mean, good hands or good heads.
Good scalp.
Good heads.
Good hair. Good scalp.
Well,
I
I mean, like that's the thing. Like some people thin, but they never go bald. You know, it's just
The
less
thing
thin.
is,
So
that
there's
it's
still
not,
hope. is
It's
what
not
you're saying.
guaranteed
Right,
because
of
it's
course.
still a kind of a random chance. But
It's a good sign, generally.
You know, I will take the idea that maybe it will be okay.
Well, you could always do the Patrick Stewart and just go like, you know what, screw it. I will be bald and in command.
And I'm also called Patrick, so
Yeah.
you know.
hey, there you go.
But that's the point. I'm
And
trying
his-
And
to
you're
avoid
French,
I
like
know, he's
Jean-Luc
Jean-Luc.
Picard.
Picard. Yeah, yeah.
You just need to have you need to trade in that transatlantic accent for an English accent. And you'll be right there.
And then pretend you're still French. I'm French.
But well, he is. In
It's-
Patrick's case, that'll be easy because he actually is.
Yes.
Well, I know that's the joke. It's
Oh,
you know, like, oh, it's Patrick Stewart. He's French, but he speaks with a very strong British accent.
Or maybe you could reverse it and pretend you're English, even though you're not. You're actually.
oh.
It's a lot of pretending. You might lose yourself and forget who you truly are.
In the music. Lose yourself in the music.
Yeah, but you're married. Like at that point, does it really matter anymore? Like about you?
Yeah. Matters to me,
Yeah.
Doesn't matter to my
I think
wife,
this
but-
is because I
or
had
at least that's what she said.
Tom and I had
Degosa.
this argument a couple of weeks ago about
Don DeGosa said, "There are 4 hairs."
that's Homer Simpson,
Don't get
No,
that
that's a reference to the
Yeah,
Star
I
Trek
get it.
Next Generation episode. There
where
are
he's
4
tortured
lights.
by the Cardassian.
What were we arguing about? Rob?
Tortured by the Kardashians?
Hat fishing.
Kim
Remember hat
Kardashian.
fishing? And it's like I don't think.
Oh yeah.
And I thought I was like it was a complete waste of time because I don't think there were enough women that looked at that in a guy to make it worthwhile. I'm not saying that it was people were doing it. I just didn't think it was worth the effort.
That's a change from what you said back then. But we'll just-
that's only
we'll
what I
leave that
said.
there. Mhm.
You're
We'll check
coming
the
in really hot,
transcript later.
Fine,
Roger.
let's go to the
Yeah.
transcript. We'll have a
Coming in.
hearing, Tom. We'll all sit down in a large room with microphones.
I do want someone to do some CGI editing of some Deep Space Nine episodes where you show the Kardashians instead of the Cardassians.
Oh, so I saw this old TV promo for like a local station, and they were promoting Star Trek, The Next Generation, not Voyager, but in Deep Space Nine, and they were showing all these clips with Cardassians in it. It's like keep up with the Cardassians, like tonight on Star Trek block.
Oh yeah, that's good. That's a good one too. Goal Kim. Never mind. I wanted to explain. TextJab asked in the Discord what was up with Cord Killers, my sister show that I do with Brian Brushwood about cord cutting. The video was taken down off of YouTube by Bandai Namco. First of all, some people, and I'm not saying TextJab did this, but some people on Twitter were like, "What'd you do?" It's like, well, first of all, a video being taken down on YouTube has nothing to do with what you did. It's, oh, we accidentally ran afoul of the robot. That's dumb. And that's what happened here. We were talking about an anime that Bandai Namco owns the rights to, and we showed, not even in full screen, I don't think. I could be wrong about that. I may be remembering it wrong. But we showed a tiny clip of the anime we were talking about. We were telling people to watch it. So it's fair use. There's no question about it. It's us doing a news review, educational, not undermining the marketplace, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But bot doesn't know that. So the bot just goes, this looks like thing in Namco database takedown episode. So we've disputed that, but that process always takes forever. And instead, Bryce is probably going to go edit that episode to take out the video of us, the thing that we're telling people to watch. So in punishment for telling people to watch a thing, the company that makes the thing has taken down our whole episode on YouTube.
I will add that Tom did an uncanny impression of that bot's voice.
Thank you.
I don't understand why they don't implement segment removal on YouTube. Surely it would be easy to do, to just take out the part that's offending.
Yeah, just black out that part. And then we'd probably be like, fine, then you won't get your recommendation and call it even. But no, they take down the entire episode. And it's fair use. So we have to dispute it because we don't want to have a bunch of copyright claims show up and end up getting a strike on the channel, even though none of these things are infringement. None of them. We're not trying to get away with anything. We're not trying to make,
that's the story of YouTube and copyright infringement.
Exactly. And that's why when people are like, oh, why did this happen? What's the real story? I'm like, there's no real story. It's just YouTube. YouTube is broken for commentary. Unless you are a big channel that has a partner manager that you can talk to and get, some special switches thrown so you don't get these things taken down, which we're not.
I think we should talk more about my genius solution to fix this thing.
What's that?
I told you, just block off, black out.
Yes, the one you just mentioned moments ago. Yes,
which clearly you don't seem to think is.
No, it was so genius. It my brain couldn't cope with the enormity.
And you could even do automated skip, if it's 30 seconds of infringement on a 10 minutes video, the video will skip to the end of the infringement easily. Why YouTube don't you do that?
IRL Mark says it would be gamed. It's gamed already.
Yeah,
it's not like gaming stopped because they take down whole episodes, so it's just dumb.
Speaking of
I like what Twitch does. Twitch actually just mutes the portion that has whatever the infringing music is.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, Patrick, I think what Roger was trying to say just now was we should do a Daily Tech News show.
You should. Let's infringe on the news,
Patrick.
Do you require me to verbally acknowledge?
It's like sitting in the exit row on a plane. You have to verbally acknowledge that you are ready.
Do you want to take on these
tech
duties of rescuing everyone when it crashes?
I do not.
How about Daily Tech News Show? Will you take those responsibilities on?
I could be sold on it. Yes.
Okay, good. Consider yourself sold. All right, here we go. What?
Sorry, go ahead.
On the concept. Sold on the concept.
Right.
Here we go in 3, 2. Coming up on DTNS, teaching self-driving cars to understand humans for better driving, how likely it is that China could become a chip powerhouse, and preparing for Valve to give you a new Half-Life in VR.
Oh.
Oh, backpack audio. You just never want to do that right, do you? All right, starting over the recording. Well, that was a nice little pretend. All right, here we go. 3, 2. Coming up on DTNS, teaching self-driving cars to understand humans better for better driving. How likely it is China could become a chip powerhouse, and preparing for Valve to give you a new Half-Life in VR.
Oh.
This is the Daily Tech News for Tuesday, November 19th, 2019. That's a lot of 19s in Los Angeles. I'm Tom Merritt.
Sarah's not here. From the Finnish countryside and forest, I'm Patrick Beja.
And I'm the show's producer, Roger Chang.
That's right. Sarah Lane had a little power outage there up in Northern California. It's something their power company up there just likes to do sometimes. But she had some stuff she had to deal with there. So apologies, but she will not be with us today. Should be back tomorrow. If, however, you want to hear Patrick and I talking about all the new streaming services and our thoughts on that and how well we think Apple TV Plus is doing with streaming, you got to get Good Day Internet. Go check it out, patreon.com/DTNS. Let's start with a few tech things you should know. Spotify launched its Your Daily Podcast playlist, giving listeners a daily automated list of podcasts they might like. After testing, Your Daily Podcast is rolling out to users in the UK, Germany, the United States, Sweden, Mexico, Brazil, Canada, Australia, and New Zealand. Spotify's algorithm mixes podcasts that people already follow, along with a few of its own recommendations.
Berlin-based Enway raised 6 million euros in seed funding to continue to develop autonomous cleaning vehicles. The autonomous street and ground cleaners are initially targeted for use on private grounds like warehouses, industrial facilities, and private parking lots.
That seems like a fairly good place for autonomy to be implemented. Mm-hmm. Germany's Hahn Air announced it issued the first airline tickets to be handled using a blockchain from open source travel distribution platform Winding Tree. So Hahn shot out some blockchain tickets first. 3 passengers, employees of Hahn Air and Winding Tree, flew on the blockchain-issued tickets from Dusseldorf to Luxembourg. The Winding Tree blockchain is able to list inventory, manage reservation requests, and receive payment in cash or credit card. They even take the LIF and Ether tokens. Winding Tree also working with Air Canada, Air France KLM, Lufthansa, and Swissport, and with some hotels, Nordic Choice Hotels, Citizen M Hotel chain, and the Airport Hotel Basel.
Amazon announced the Fire TV Blaster, another Honshot first reference, an IR blaster to control your other TV hardware using Amazon Voice Services through a Fire TV. The Fire TV Blaster is a small box that connects to other Fire TV products by Wi-Fi. It's available for pre-order, shipping December 11 for $35. To bundled with a Fire TV 4K streaming stick and Echo Dot for $80.
So in other words, 15 separate remotes are nothing compared to a good blaster.
Mm-hmm.
Microsoft made a blog post Monday announcing plans to support encrypted domain name system queries. Windows Core Networking will first support DNS over HTTPS, with Microsoft saying it's open to supporting DNS over TLS in the future as well. Microsoft did not say when the first implementations will arrive, but they will show up first for Windows insiders.
Amazon extended the free ad-supported version of its streaming service to Android, iOS, Fire TV, and the web in Germany, the UK, and the US. The service has about 2 million songs, and free users can start stations based on a song or access playlists like all hits or holidays favorites.
All right, let's talk a little bit more about letters. They got letters. The U.S. House of Representatives Judiciary Committee has released the answers it received from Google, Facebook, Amazon, and Apple in response to an antitrust investigation. Google denied favoring its own services over competitors, specifically saying YouTube results are not weighted above others and that Google Docs is designed to work well in all browsers. Have to say, I think Google Docs works better in Firefox than it does in Chrome. Facebook acknowledged cutting off third-party apps that replicated its core functionalities, even citing Vine as an example. Apple probably had the least controversial of these from all reports. They answered questions about the browser, Safari browser, and App Store commissions, but nothing that you probably wouldn't have already heard of out in the public. And Amazon denied using merchant data to launch, source, or price its own private label products, something people are convinced Amazon does. They say they don't. U.S. Senators Chris Coons and Josh Hawley also, in a related story, sent a letter to Facebook today asking the company how exactly it tracks user location, even when location access and location history are disabled by users. That's a reference to Facebook admitting in a blog post recently that, quote, it may still understand your location using things like check-ins, events, and information about your internet connection. Facebook has until December 12th to respond to that. This is interesting because Facebook's saying, well, if you check in and tell us where you are, then of course we know where you are. Okay, that makes sense. If you say, I went to this event and we know where the event is, of course, we're probably going to know where you are there. So those two make sense. But the other one about internet connection has to do with IP addresses. And what I'm guessing Facebook hopes you think they mean is if someone buys an ad on Facebook and says, target it at Helsinki, Facebook will go and look up all the IP addresses associated with Helsinki. And then when an IP address requests a page from Facebook, it'll say, oh, okay, here's the ad they bought. It matches the Helsinki address. We'll display it for that person. And these senators are saying, could you just make sure to explain exactly, is that what you mean by tracking someone by their internet connection, even if they've turned off location services? So two questions. Will Facebook actually respond with something unexpected to say, well, we also do this other thing? Or will it just be that? And will that be controversial?
It seems like that would be very unlikely to be controversial if it's just that. And if it isn't, though, if there's something else, and they essentially tried to obfuscate it here with this response, I think that might be the straw that breaks the camel's back.
We keep saying that, though, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, come on. How many more times can that camel hold up?
And this is specifically a conversation that they're having with representatives of the people, right? It's already working with a branch of government. If they try to fudge things with them in this context, I mean, the real problem, I think, isn't necessarily that they would be, the camel's back would be breaking. It's what do we do once it has broken? What could representatives do to express their displeasure towards Facebook? I mean, they could do a million things, but
they're doing it. They're doing an antitrust investigation, and the logical outcome would be if they found some kind of anti-competitive behavior. Obviously, they could take action under laws related to the antitrust. But I don't know that this is antitrust. This is privacy. Right. And then it would be whether they have actually broken a law in doing that, or if it's just, making it transparent to people, in which case I don't think just making it to transparent people seems to have any effect on Facebook's user base. Sadly, right. People keep finding justifications for why, I know I don't like Facebook, but I have to use it because ...
Which is usually a genuine justification. It's just that in this case here, and I don't think they tried to fudge it. I think this is actually just an IP address thing. So
if it's more than just an IP address targeting advertisements, it will be we actually collected the IP addresses and stored information associated with people who visited from those IP addresses, or if it was somehow correlated with a user account. Yeah. We should talk about some Microsoft news.
Microsoft announced its Teams communication app and Slack competitor now has more than 20 million daily active users, up from 13 million in July. So quite a significant increase there. Microsoft offers Teams as a free add-on for Office 365 users. In October, Slack said their app had 12 million daily active users. Also in October, Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella said more than 350 organizations have at least 10,000 people using Teams.
Yeah, so I'm not calling for the death of Slack here, but definitely shows that Slack's first mover advantage has been used up, and Microsoft is passing them. So now Slack needs to keep innovating to stay in the game.
And the interesting thing is that Slack makes money on paid users, and paid users are rare because it's very expensive, and that's good for Slack, or at least it was. I'm wondering if they aren't going to start hunting for less wealthy users and companies, maybe by chasing users like us who use it for professional but smaller structures. We wouldn't necessarily have enough money to pay for it for premium accounts for Slack at the price they are today. But maybe if there was a package, we might shell out a little bit more money.
I don't know if it scales. I think the bigger problem is not the price they charge. It's that the price that Microsoft charges is bundled into Office 365, where you get so much more.
Right, but structures like ours don't have Office 365, and we might be willing to pay something for something like Slack to get premium features. So I don't know, maybe.
Ars Technica reports on work published in PNAS from scientists at MIT and Delft University of Technology to help autonomous vehicles understand the intentions of other motorists. You know, like when you can tell that person keeps inching up and you're like, you know what, they're going to go. I'm going to go slow because I bet they're going to cut in front of me, and they do. Autonomous vehicles aren't good at that sort of stuff. So the scientists used 4 categories of social values: altruists, who are drivers who maximize other drivers' enjoyment. They sometimes known as defensive drivers. Pro-social, who try to benefit all other drivers. Like, oh yeah, no, I'll make sure to let you in and merge because I want to make it good for everybody, or maybe I'll even speed up to get away so that I leave enough room for people behind me. Then there's individualists, those who just maximize their own benefit. They don't worry about what's happening with other people. And the competitive driver who wants to win. Who wants to have a better experience than all the other drivers, even if it's at their own expense. The AI was then trained how to recognize which of the 4 types of driving a driver seemed to be and then project what that kind of driver would do next. With that system in place, autonomous vehicles were more accurate at predicting merging behavior, with errors dropping by 25%.
This is a really important development. It's still, very early research, but I think what we're hearing, at least as non-experts, is always that AI is really good at navigating streets now, but the real problem is to determine what the other driver's intentions are. And if this manages to maybe not solve, but at least help solve that issue, it seems like it would improve the effectiveness of autonomous driving significantly.
Yeah, I mean, there are other issues as well. It's not just trying to predict what other drivers do. There's also, weird intersections and changing weather conditions and all that, right? But this is one of the problems. And in fact, part of this Ars Technica article noted that more than 50% of the autonomous vehicle accidents in California turned out to be rear-ending because the human driver behind didn't understand what the autonomous vehicle was going to do. So part of this study could help the autonomous vehicle display these kinds of behaviors so that people understand, oh, he really isn't going to move, or he is going to turn. Turns are definitely where most of the vehicle deaths happen, because somebody is turning into traffic and they think the person's going to slow down and they don't, or that person doesn't see them, et cetera. So this would be a huge advance if they can make this work in practice. Right now, it's still at the theoretical scale. It's still at the software testing scale, but it would be super important.
Yeah, it seems like it would be a more significant step than maybe other things that can be improved. But I actually don't know what I'm talking about. So we should talk about dating instead.
Yeah, because we both know about that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Dating app The League, which uses LinkedIn to verify users, is launching a feature called League Live. Users who opt in will get automatically paired with 3 people for 2-minute video dates, quote unquote, in the app that take place Sundays at 9 p.m. The sessions start with an icebreaker question. If both people heart, quote unquote, each other, they are officially matched by the service to pursue an in-person date. The beta starts in beta tests. The service was liked best by people between 35 and 40 years old and outside most populated areas. League Live starts December 1st.
It's an interesting approach, and I'm very curious of those of you in the audience who are into dating. Feedback at dailytechnewsshow.com. Tell us what you think of this idea. It's not the only service that offers video dating. Bumble offers video dates, but they have no time limit. So this is more like speed dating, where you are pressed for time. And like they say, let's say you live, I don't know, an hour plus outside of a major city, and you get matched with somebody in the city. You're not going to want to drive an hour to meet this person, or maybe even a half hour to meet this person, if you're not sure. This gives you a chance to meet them and say, okay, that might be worth driving a half hour to go see. So I can see this being helpful in rural situations, people who live outside of cities, and just people who are pressed for time and like, you know what, I don't want to spend a lot of time on dates without vetting people first? I know it sounds so clinical.
It seems like I think to me, I see this as an addition to chatting rather than taking the date out of the equation. Like it makes the chatting portion of the matching more successful because you can obviously actually see and talk with the person. To me, this is on this side of the border of the date. And then, so bottom line, I think this is really awesome. Had I been dating still, I would have loved doing that because I mean, it's just beyond the explanations of why and how and when. It just seems cool, and like it would be so much more efficient than any other system, including chat or actual dates when you've never seen or talked to the person. And I want to mention the 2 minutes limit is perfect because even if you're not having fun, it's a little bit uncomfortable, at the end you're like, yeah, thanks so much, it was great, thank you, bye, and then you never speak to that person again if you didn't enjoy them.
Although they're going to be
great.
like, why didn't they heart me? Why aren't you hearting me? Why haven't you hearted me yet? And then you're like, I definitely do not want to date this person.
Yeah.
The BBC has a report on efforts in China to become self-sufficient in chip production. A lot of people are jumping to the conclusion that, with the trade restriction on, China's gonna double down and just start producing their own chips. This is a really good article to kind of gauge how much of this is a reaction to the trade restriction, how much of it is just China wanting to be more self-reliant, and how far they have to go. China produces 16% of the semiconductors that its own companies use. But the government has set targets of reaching 40% by 2020 and 70% by 2025. Government can set all the targets at once, but that does tend to push people at least toward those numbers. The plan dates back to meetings in May 2018. So before the Huawei fight, before the tariff restrictions really started to go into place, but right after the U.S. restricted trade with ZTE, a restriction that has since been lifted. But it was sort of the first salvo in this dispute between China and the U.S. In October of this year, so this is after the tariffs are fully in place, after Huawei has been restricted, the Chinese government created a $29 billion fund to support its semiconductor industry. So these incidents have definitely moved China along on a path it seems like it wanted to go on anyway, but maybe it has encouraged things to move a little faster. Chinese companies also need to produce products that sell outside of China. AI researcher and tech historian Piero Scaruffi estimates that China may be up to 10 years behind companies like TSMC. So even if they can make a chip, that's useful in China, it might not be competitive outside of China because companies like TSMC have such a huge lead. Now, China lacks the industry and experience and the equipment, the precision equipment that a lot of these other companies have to manufacture high-end chips. However, they're not bad in chip design. Huawei has very competitive chip design. Huawei doesn't make its own chips, but it can design its own chips. University engineer in Hong Kong, Patrick Yue, whose work is partly funded by Huawei, believes that Huawei is doing this because they're trying to replicate the success of Samsung or Apple in making the chips that they use in their own devices. And Samsung may be a very good parallel here because Samsung makes some of the chips it uses, but sometimes even though it makes a chip, it may buy a chip from a third-party vendor because that chip is just better for its design. Huawei handset business president Li Changzhu told the BBC that Huawei has no problem using other vendors for chipsets, saying, "We use the best chipsets to satisfy our customers." And Scaruffi, the historian I mentioned earlier, believes that China's advantage isn't in creating technology, it's in implementing it anyway. So it sounds like China has a tall order to try to produce their own chips, but design, coming up with useful things, implementations like WeChat and Huawei's smartphone models, that's where they'll probably see their most of their success.
The interesting thing to me here is the government intent of self-sufficiency, which is something that a lot of people are talking about, including, I guess, us in Europe. And because for us, we're dependent on China and on the US for many of the services and goods that we use in the tech sector. So the question of essentially we have very little of those that we have a handle on. So that self-sufficiency is something that is concerning for everyone, and maybe it should be for even more people than everyone. That doesn't make sense, but
the article sort of points me to the idea that mercantilism, that old-fashioned practice of saying we will just take everything and make it ourselves and sell to other people, but we won't buy to anybody else, doesn't work any better now than it did, back in the 17th and 1800s.
And I will add a small note. There's a reason why Micron is still in the memory business, is because a lot of government military contracts require a lot of those key components to be produced in the U.S. So but the problem is there's never enough of that to support an entire industry. So it's kind of picking and choosing where you can make the most benefit.
If you want to get all the tech headlines each day in about 5 minutes, be sure to subscribe to dailytechheadlines.com. This Thursday at 10 a.m. Pacific, Valve will announce Half-Life Alyx. Well, they've already announced the title, but they're going to give you all the details on Thursday at 10 a.m. Pacific. It is a flagship VR game. The Verge's Sean Hollister notes the announcement comes 2 years and 9 months after Valve promised 3 full-length VR games and more than a decade after the last new Half-Life game. To prepare for this momentous day in VR gaming, Patrick is going to bring us up to speed a little bit on the significance of Half-Life and what this may or may not mean for VR.
The thing is, a lot of people might not know this in the tech sector, but Half-Life is a hallowed name in the gaming industry. Half-Life 2 came out in 2004, and it was one of the most successful games in the history of gaming. And its sequel that has been semi-promised for a while by Valve and hasn't emerged and has kind of been forgotten, Half-Life 3, is probably the most well-known meme of the gaming industry. Half-Life 3 is the thing that we know we will never see and yet keep hoping for and quote unquote confirm anytime we see a 3 in anything anywhere.
It's the new Duke Nukem Forever, right?
Duke Nukem Forever was actually announced and in development for a very long time. Half-Life 3 has never been confirmed, announced, or anything.
All right, that is a difference.
Yeah, and so that is kind of setting the stage for the importance of anything Half-Life announced by Valve. So then putting Half-Life Alyx as the main title for they're doing for VR is significant because it's something Half-Life. Obviously, it's not Half-Life 3, but it's significant in that way. It's also important to note that Half-Life 2 is the game that launched Steam and essentially made digital game distribution out of thin air because it was so highly anticipated that people were willing to install that strange launcher program that didn't work very well in order to play it. So using Half-Life to launch things is not unheard of. It's also interesting on the VR side because VR hardware has been a little bit lacking since launch. It's getting better and better every revision, and we're getting to a point where it's really not bad at all, but maybe not perfect yet. And on the software side, we've seen many good games, but no awesome, great game. Basically, no killer app. There hasn't been a VR killer app for gaming, yet. Yeah. So the question is Half-Life Alyx going to be the game that finally gets a lot of gamers, more than has been in the past, to at least desire a VR headset? Because let's be honest, the majority of gamers look at this as a interesting little doohickey, but they don't really want to shell out the money for it. Maybe Half-Life Alyx is going to do the trick to at least make them want it.
Yeah, I think that's really well put because as I like to remind people all the time, VR is very successful. AR is very successful in the enterprise. There are lots of great training and field uses, and those people who use them scoff when you say there needs to be a killer use case for it. But on the consumer side, gaming is the best bet for it to
Yeah.
be a consumer hit. At least so far, nobody's come up with anything else that seems promising. And gaming has yet to have that VR hit that everybody talks about and says, well, you got to get a VR headset now. Kind of, I feel like what Disney Plus is doing for streaming video, where people who are never into streaming video are suddenly like, yeah, but now it's Disney. Now I'm willing to try it. Now I'm willing to learn it. VR needs that. I leave it to you, Patrick, to tell me if this is this the time. And of course, we can't really say until we see the game itself. But Valve has a good history of making really good games. Is that going to translate to VR?
That is the big question. Obviously, as you said, we don't know what that game even is, but they're making a big deal out of it. And the fact that it's a Half-Life game is in itself a big deal. I would be surprised if it became the thing that launches VR. I would be very surprised. I don't expect it to, but I think it might be the thing that gets a significant chunk of the general gaming population at least interested. The problem then becomes on what headset does it run? Because most headsets, especially Valve's headsets, are very expensive. Hopefully, they will launch it on any headset, including the cheaper but still very capable Windows, is it mixed reality headsets, and the Oculus ones officially supported. That would be a great move, but it's unlikely.
Also, we keep saying Alex, but I think it's probably Alex because his
Yes, it
named
is
after
Alex,
the character Alex Vance.
Obviously, yes.
Yeah. So apologies to all of you who were yelling at your podcasting player.
I was getting so excited about Half-Life, I didn't remember the pronunciation of her name. That's terrible. And I've played through Half-Life 2 many times, so I should know it.
Thanks to all those who participate in our subreddit. You can submit stories and vote on them at dailytechnewsshow.reddit.com. And there was some folks in the Discord just now wanting to know, hey, any folks in Atlanta want to do a DTNS meetup in Atlanta? Now, I can't necessarily come there, but this person just wants to get a bunch of DTNS listeners together in Atlanta. So get into our Discord, which you can join by linking your Patreon account at patreon.com/DTNS. All right, let's check out our mailbag. On yesterday's Stadia discussion, Mike from uncharacteristically soggy Riyadh, I guess they're getting more rain in Riyadh, or getting rain in Riyadh, says, the fundamental question I still don't know the answer to is, who is the person who needs to game so much that they need to be able to do it on literally any screen and are willing to pay $10 a month, or as I like to think about it, $120 a year, but are okay with the slight lag and the few downsides of streaming. I'm a casual gamer who probably spends less than $100 on games, and the service intrigued me, but it's the constantly accruing costs that turn me off. I hope it succeeds, but $10 a month access charge for content I have to purchase seems too steep.
Oh my God, this is so frustrating. Google did such a horrible job promoting and explaining what Stadia is. It's horrible now. Stadia will launch in 2020 and it will be free to access. Not only that, but I suspect that you will have many games that will be available for free as well, free to play games, and maybe 2-hour, 3-hour trials for pay games. And also, I think something that a lot of people are not noticing, or I look at it like that. I think Google wants to provide white label streaming services to other companies. And Stadia is a service, but it's also a proof of concept. So yeah, many answers there, but
yeah, definitely.
You won't have to pay. You won't have to pay for Stadia when it launches for everyone, and that's something people should remember.
Yeah, the $10 a month will become a thing you'll pay because you want to get the benefits that accrue from paying. It's like a premium level. But yeah, they've done a really bad job of explaining what this is.
Horrible.
Shout out to patrons at our master and grandmaster level, including Michael Akins, Ken Hayes, and Brad Schick. Thank you for going above and beyond in your support of Daily Tech News Show. And thank you, Patrick Beja, for going above and beyond in your staying up late to be on Daily Tech News Show.
It is always such a pleasure, and I've missed all of you, including Sarah, which I'm so sad is not here with me today. Next week.
Yes, she told me to tell you that she was very upset that she had to miss today's show.
You
'Cause she
know,
misses you too.
I almost canceled my appearance because she wasn't here. You would have had to do the show alone with Roger.
And then you realized you'd have to listen to me do the show alone. You're like, well, okay, that's no good.
Yeah, no, that can't work. But if people want more, games are happening right now. They're hip, they're rad, and there's a lot of them because it's the holiday season. If you want to know more and understand everything, go check out Pixels. You open your podcast app, you search for Pixels in the little search field, and you subscribe. And you get a show every couple of weeks, and we tell you all you need to know. So do that now.
And folks, don't forget that we have a little holiday gift for you. If you sign up or remain a patron between now and November 28th, we'll send you a holiday card with some Len Peralta art on it. He showed it on the show a couple weeks ago. It's Sarah and I with our holiday tech dreams, like, no more data collection without our permission, stuff like that. You can have that mailed to you. Just make sure that you have given us your address, or else we don't know where you are and cannot send you the card. And the way you check on that is go to patreon.com/pledges, and then you'll see on the right-hand side, either Daily Tech News Show has your address, or you'll see Daily Tech News Show, and on the right-hand side, a little blank area. And then you click the edit button and you give us your address, and we'll mail you the card. Thank you for supporting us and keeping us independent. We are just a few people working hard because we enjoy doing it to help you understand more about technology. And the way we get most of the money we use to buy our food and feed our dogs and children is patreon.com/DTNS. Our email address is feedback@dailytechnewsshow.com. We're live Monday through Friday, 4:30 p.m. Eastern, 21:30 UTC. You can find out more at dailytechnewsshow.com/live. Back tomorrow with Scott Johnson. Talk to you then.
This show is part of the Frog Pants Network. Get more at frogpants.com.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.
Good night, Rob. Okay. Do you want to help pick a title, or do you need to jet?
I want to sleep.
Go to sleep. I will sing you a lullaby.
Oh, I look forward to that.
Sure. That's an extra perk for being a contributor.
Yeah. Is that a Patreon level?
That is definitely worth it. All right. Thanks,
All right,
guys.
Thanks, Patrick.
Bye.
Appreciate
Bye.
it.
Bye, Roger.
All right.
Go to dtns.showbot.tv, where we have loads of title suggestions. My gosh, Roger, so many title suggestions.
I like this one. A chip on China's shoulder.
A chip on China's shoulder is good. I like that one too. Don't slack on teams. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Wasn't a big story though. Half-Life VR confirmed. It's not bad. I want it all and I want it cheap. That's actually more for GDI, I think, than DTNS. This isn't a drill. New Half-Life confirmed. Tracking the antitrust probe.
Oh, the other one is the Half-Life of VR.
Ooh, that one's nice.
I like that one.
Too.
You wanna go
A
with that?
virtual Alex is not a virtual 3. Yeah, actually really like the Half-Life of VR. Want to do that one?
Done.
All right.
What
I
happened
am
to it?
adding it to the doc now.
No, that's not it.
And then for GDI at gdi.showbot.tv, we have Finland isn't on the moon. How many streaming subscriptions? ? That one's pretty good.
So many.
What's fun for old people? Stockholm streaming syndrome. View from a soapbox. That's pretty good. Too many shows. Stop all these magazines.
Stop the magazines. I'm Susan Powder.
Too many shows. Not bad. I like that one.
Too many shows spoil the season.
Want to just do too many shows?
Yeah. Where's that?
All right. Tassel, Tasel, submitted that title. And I forgot to mention Beatmaster 80 submitted the title we're using for DTNS. Thank you both for your title geniusness.
All right. Let me get to the.
Too many cooks. So if you're watching live and you missed it, we did start GDI a little early today so that we could jet out of here a little early because I've got to shoot some top fives for Tech Republic. So you can either go to techrepublic.com and watch some top fives and pretend like, oh, that's what Tom's doing right now. Or if you're watching on Twitch, twitch.tv/gooddayinternet, you could just go rewind the top, I think, at some point and watch it, or just wait for it to show up on the Patreon if you missed the beginning. Anything else, Roger, that you'd like to add before we go?
No, thank you for joining us today. Sarah will be back, hopefully when the power allows her to.
Yes,
And
the power compels her.
power compels you.
Yeah. And in the meantime, we want you... Oh, wait. I'm going to go... I want to start doing this at the very last thing before we sign off. Is there any... I don't think there's any notes about people subscribing on Twitch, so never mind. I got nothing to say. I'm going to keep checking that staff channel at the very end, though. Thanks, everybody. Have a good day.
Have a good day.